When you walk into any room, walk in with confidence because no one can do what you do like you do it. And then the reality is you can share everything and you're not going to implement everything. And so if I give it to you, you may or may not use it. What I learned in the past has been when I gave stuff away for free, people continue to ask for questions and didn't use it. But when I started charging for it, they started implementing stuff, which is unique because there's value in what you invest in. And so when you
Sure.
invest in something, people then take away and say, like, let me learn this and grow in it as well. So we do a lot of stuff for free, but then we have things that we charge for as well. And people, find value in that.
Hey everyone, Shaune Corbett here, Real Estate Success DFW. Today I have Robert Wagner. Hey Robert, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. How you doing?
Very good, man. So Robert, I picked him up because I'm always looking for really good guests. And I picked Robert up. He was a headliner at an event that I went to, and it was specifically on AI. I think if you're in real estate and you're selling real estate, I think they always use the phrase, AI may not replace us today or maybe even in the near future, but if you are competing with people that are using it, you're going to be behind. Go ahead and embrace it. Does that sound like a pretty fair analysis, Robert?
Absolutely. Those who are using AI right now in their business is going to replace the inefficient ones who are not using it. Absolutely.
I love the concise way of looking at it. So Robert not only is great at AI, he's done quite a bit of production. He's also a new agent. I would call you a new agent, Robert. 5 years
I
means you're a rookie. You just got into the toddler years, but
am.
he sold so much real estate that we'll give him a pass on some of the maybe his time and grade. So we're going to leverage some of the skills and things he's used, and he's making full value use of all the things and tools he's using. For all of you out there, you know that eight guests that I bring on here, they've got to sell real estate. They got to know and offer some level of experience and things that's going to relate to all agents out there. And I always talk about my three core things, and he and I were talking offline. Sustainable, we got to be able to do it long term, little to no cost. And I know probably 90-95% of the stuff Robert's doing is little to no cost because I've heard a lot of his suggestions and stuff. And then it's got to be something that anyone out there can do. I just want to make sure it's duplicatable, is the term I use. Meaning, if I showed you how to do it, you could show someone else how to do it. We're not doing rocket science here. It's not complex. It's just you got to make use of the tools and things available. I know when I was looking you up, you had a Linktree link that came up, and you have all of your links. It's incredible, all the things that you've got. You've got a book that you have put together, Rise, Slay, Eat. What do you think
Yeah.
about that? What can you tell me about that?
Yeah. So actually, it's two books in one. So when I first got into the business in 2020 during the pandemic, obviously I'm definitely a newbie. And when you start saying the pandemic realtors, right? But I wrote a book called Rise, Slay, Eat, which was becoming the best version of yourself. At that time, I felt like I was too new in the business to have any kind of sea legs to tell agents about how to become the best version of yourself as a realtor. So I wrote the book in 2021. And then after several years of kind of working through the business and learning the business and mentoring and training and all that, I repurposed that book to Rise, Slay, Eat, the real estate edition. So it's all about prospecting, learning yourself, your skills, your weaknesses, your learning about yourself in the sense of mastering yourself, and then ultimately becoming center stage, taking that center stage of your life in your business. Stage as an acronym for your strengths, your temperaments, your abilities, your gifts, and your experiences, and how all those things can help shape you to becoming who you are and being the best version of yourself. It's also a book that's on the NAR bookshelf. And so I'm really proud about the book and grateful that God is using it.
I love that. I love that. And I love that. It's fun. I'd say over the last year or two, I think a lot of us have really given value to God and what He's done for us in our businesses. And I would say a couple of years ago, people weren't even talking about God anymore. And I'm
Mm.
really happy to hear that you say that because that's really inspiring. That it's important to realize that we're not born to be successful. We have a learning opportunity, and a lot of it's God-given gifts and being able to utilize them and being able to make use of them. And I'm glad He is making good use of you and your gifts between writing, speaking, and then now you're doing all this AI stuff, intense AI stuff. It's crazy. It's great.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I think it's interesting that you said that is you can be successful and not be effective. You can be effective and not successful. And one of the old stories of Moses striking the rock, he was successful and the water came out, but he wasn't effective and obedient. So just trying to be obedient and effective and all of that stuff. Yeah, I appreciate it.
I think it's a core principle we should all appreciate, and I hope more are humble enough to recognize that they aren't as good as they think they are.
Absolutely. That part.
All right, let's talk about. So you've been in it for 5 years. How did you come to real estate? I usually at least kind of throw that in there for everyone for context.
Yeah, so to make a long story short, I was a corporate trainer, corporate sales trainer, did leadership development, sales, and started off at the company in sales, kind of moved up the company really quickly. And when I got into leadership positions, I missed the actual selling. I've been in sales in some capacity all my life, and was trying to think about what could I do to have that person to person contact. And I was golfing with a buddy, and we was talking about potentially selling my house. And he helped me sell my property and all that. And I feel like I did a lot of the work, quite honestly. And so I was like, this is a great segue, like a great opportunity to be able to leverage what I love to do, which is helping people, teaching people, training people, growing and advocating. And what I didn't get when I felt like we bought our first house, like we felt like we was the new young kids that didn't have any money, even though we was in a strong buyer's market. We got nothing that we asked for because I think our realtor didn't advocate for us. And so getting into the business was about advocacy and sales. I loved that person to person contact. I love walking people through processes, and I'm grateful to be a part of the process now for the last 5+ years, and doing pretty well.
No, no doubt. You're definitely one of probably, we'll say top 0.5%. And I know that sounds like, wow, how am I in the top 0.5%? Because I've been here, I've been doing real estate for a long time, and I know volume. If you're reaching a volume level you are in 5 years, you got to know that 90% of people aren't even selling a house in a year.
Yeah.
So you've already got rid of a lot of the people, and a lot of people have dropped off. For
Yeah.
those that have
Yeah.
stayed in as long as you have, had a successful market to start and then go into the really hard market the last couple of years and still operating and still running a business is a testament to your success for sure. Let's talk about AI because that's kind of what
Okay.
your cornerstone opportunities are. That's where you've really taken hold. What do you think got you into AI and leveraging AI? Did you just see the potential? Did you go to some training classes and like, wow, I can do that? How did you even get into AI?
Yeah, that's great. So I was a corporate trainer working dual career, so doing real estate and corporate training. And I remember November 2022, about a week after, 3 to 5 days after ChatGPT came on the scene, some kind of way it came across my timeline. I listened to podcasts a lot and just kind of just developing and growing. And I was like, man, what is this tool? And so I began to leverage it in my corporate training, like looking at, as an automation and as a person that can be an assistant. It was even funny, like as I was leaving my job, I was tasked with career pathing. First time ever doing this career pathing, never did career pathing at all. And my manager would say, like, take a stab at just writing something out. And I would leverage artificial intelligence. And he would say, like, wow, that was amazing. Are you sure you just learned this stuff? Like how to do this? Like, did you ever? And I was like, no, nah, just, took a step. I wasn't telling him that AI was helping me with the stuff. And he said, I was like, at that point, I was like, this is valuable. Like if it's taking somebody with 20, 30 years experience in a certain thing and I'm able to leverage as a newbie and they're seeing value, what can I do to, in my business? And so I began to start leveraging it in my real estate business. And it was just trial and error, learning, growing, developing. I mean, I was in it all day, every day. And then started seeing some impact that it can do in my real estate business, how I can leverage it. And so that's how I moved into the training space, because I've always kind of been a person that when I learn something, I love to give it away. Like I love to share with other people. I feel like if you are a river that comes to a spot that you keep it all to yourself, you become a dead sea. There's no life that develops around it. But if you're a river, meaning you get something and you continue to be a conduit to give it out, life happens on both sides and you're blessed as well. So started sharing with other people and then just kind of took off as far as scalability.
I love that. Not everyone certainly has a servant's heart or wants to give. And we're in a business where most agents view it as competition and not
Mm,
collaboration. Robert, I can give you everything that I'm doing and you're not going to be me. And the same
absolutely.
thing with you. You can teach me everything about AI and I can go and implement it exactly the way you're implementing it. And I'm still not Robert Wagner.
Yeah.
And how about even more than that? My clients are not your clients.
Right.
My sphere of influence is not your sphere of influence.
Right.
So there's very little bleed over. So we should be collaborative. That's why I have Real Estate Success DFW, and while I have the Facebook group and I give free training and help agents, especially here in Dallas Fort Worth, that I bring them to my office and I teach them everything that we can. I bring in guys like you that say, hey, I'm going to give you some tips you can go implement tomorrow and start building a better business. It's because I know that we're not competing with each other. And if I can make you better, you'll make the industry better. It'll be better for me too.
Yeah, like you hit the nail on the head. It's like number one, we have different spheres. Like my people that I serve is not your people. We have different personalities. My dad used to always tell me, like, when you walk into any room, walk in with confidence because no one can do what you do like you do it. And then the reality is you can share everything and you're not going to implement everything. And so if I give it to you, you may or may not use it. What I learned in the past has been when I gave stuff away for free, people continue to ask for questions and didn't use it. But when I started charging for it, they started implementing stuff, which is unique because there's value in what you invest in. And so when you
Sure.
invest in something, people then take away and say, like, let me learn this and grow in it as well. So we do a lot of stuff for free, but then we have things that we charge for as well. And people find value in that. So you're right.
Well, it doesn't help anyone if you teach and no one's doing what you're teaching.
Agree.
Nobody wins, right?
Yeah.
And having a little bit of skin in the game certainly incentivizes people to like, well, I paid for it, I better get my money's worth.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does change your perspective. And it's funny, I have a training group that I set up on a platform and it was free and I let people in and I would give lots of stuff away. And the interaction and the time people would spend in there was almost nothing because it was a free thing for them to sign up for.
Yeah.
That's a mindset that I had to say, I want to help people. And if they're not going to even come in and make utilize what I'm doing, then, I need to change the way I do it. Let's put some skin in the game. And that's going to be a future for me. So I know that's a lesson that I'm learning.
Love it.
Let's talk about AI, another thing. So you mentioned when you thought about AI and you were working with it, you saw it as an assistant. It was a subtle thing that you said. And I think that most people are not really thinking about AI in that sense, and they should. It's like having a marketing person or an accounting person or, something else. So it can be immediately day one, you can just talk to it and say, hey, this is where I'm failing, or what can I do today to make more money, or even basic questions. It can start giving you a direction.
Yeah.
So I know the step one in Chat GPT in the top right, you have settings, and you need to input everything about you as much as you possibly can, and then it will start learning you. And then from there, you can say, now I want to know, based on all of my closings and the type of clients that I work with, and this is the type of clients I like, how do I reach them? And you make them an assistant for you. Is that how you view the assistant aspect?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'll take it even a step further and say, like, we all have content we've written before, whether it's emails or a book or blogs or whatever it is, we have content. And so what I did very early on was I loaded all my old writing styles in and said, hey, can you identify my writing style? Like, well, how do I write? What personality, tone, structure, style, etc. And then I took that report that ChatGPT gave to me and put that into my custom instructions. And so that whenever I communicate, is communicating the way that Robert Wagner communicates routinely. That moves you from just being a generic AI bot giving off generic stuff to how you normally write and sound. But we also tell people in this business, if you do anything 2 or 3 times, it should be a system or a process. It's a standard operating procedure. So AI for me becomes that SOP, that assistant. So instead of me having to go in and say the same thing over and over again, I create custom GPTs, I create projects, I create different things that it can do the thing that I normally do routinely. And now it takes away some of the steps of what I would normally do. The goal for me, as far as the assistant aspect of it, is number one, I want to alleviate inefficiencies. How can I replace my inefficient moments, saving myself 11 to 17 hours in a given week by using the 8 applications of ChatGPT or AI in my business? Number two is how can I scale, right? I want to scale my business, everything from how I approach my social media to how I approach my business. So, what can I do to scale? One of the greatest things that I did early on, I went to a conference and there was this company there that was like a brand consultant, and they had their framework. They talk about, but they charged $40,000 to do a brand consultation. They're the people that took Grand Marnier from being a bottom of the shelf to a top shelf kind of liquor. And I said, I can't pay $40,000 for a brand consultation. So I just took all their content, audio, the slides, all that, loaded ChatGPT and said, hey, can you help me as a brand consultant using this framework to help me with my brand? Ask me what I don't know and give me the interview process. And what it did was it took me from social media following, which was like the fourth pillar of my business. It took me to about 5,000 Instagram followers. It took me to about 15 transactions in 2 years, 5 million sales volume. Now it's the second pillar for my business. When Spirit of Influence is number one, it was a number four, but that's how I use Chat GPT AI to leverage inefficient moments, scalability, content, etc.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I know you want to talk about is the efficiency and becoming scalable is important. I don't know if agents can relate to that. It's not about not making personal touch with your clients. It's about doing the things that you should be doing and maximizing your hourly pay,
Yeah,
right? And there's different things that we do in our business, and a lot of them, like you say, if I do it 2 or 3 times, I should systematize it and create a way to shorten that distance that has to be accomplished in order to be able to get that to move forward. And it's going to be the same items every transaction. We probably have 20 or 30 things we do in every single transaction,
yeah,
and
yeah.
how do we systematize that and make that cleaner and more efficient where we're not spending time doing things that are low hourly pay. We want to
Right.
get paid
And
a lot.
or trying to think about, did I cover everything? Like like early on in like my listing, I had checklists, and so that I would make sure that I did the same thing over and over again. And now I had a checklist to be able to remind myself of what was effective and what worked and what needs to be done each time. And that's the whole goal as far as scalability is, how can I take away the blank screen or the thinking time to now do the income producing activities and relationship building time.
I like that. And there's time blocking and there's other ways to become more effective and efficient. But I just think that people, if they want to scale, you've got to be able to condense the things that are duplicatable and easy to do that don't pay you much per hour in a very simple, repeatable way. In
Yeah.
ChatGPT or any other, you don't have to use ChatGPT, but any of those
Correct.
standard AI systems have the ability to do a lot of that for you. And a lot of us take that, for granted beyond writing property descriptions. It can do more than that. I know a lot of people are still at step one. I just have it write property descriptions, but man, go well beyond that. It can be your personal coach. And it's funny because it can review the personal coaching style of, anyone out there and then act as that coach for you using that style and that strategy and what they
Yeah.
teach. And it can do it for you in step by step, like do step one. I've got to get from here, here's where I want to go. How do I get there in a year? And it will start working and showing you ways. Even if you don't get there, you're moving forward somewhere.
Right.
Most people don't ever move forward anywhere.
Right.
Just take
Yeah.
a step forward.
I To that coaching point, several months ago, I had the ideal. I was like, what if I created my own board of advisors? And so somewhere in quarter two of last year, I created my own AI board of advisors. I said, what if I had Jared James, Brian Buffini, Tom Ferry, Mike Ferry on speed dial? And so I went in, I did all the research, created me a custom GPT of their frameworks, their coaching, all that stuff. And so now when I want to go role play, I don't role play with anybody else. I role play with my AI assistant, which is my board of advisors. And Tom Ferry pops up and say, hey, this is what I would do in the scenario. Brian Buffini pops up. And so you can do that with any coach, any person that you want to do, having scalable systems. And so like you mentioned earlier, is like, if your dollar amount an hour is $200, $500 an hour, we tell you now, if it's a $5 an hour type job, why are you doing it? Get an assistant. Well, now I could pay $20 a month or whatever your AI bot is. You could pay that monthly, and that becomes your assistant to do those things. And now I can save even more money and scale even much more.
I like it. Let's talk. I mean, we've talked a lot about time management. Do you have some general advice? Do you time block? I mean, how do you manage your time? What's, do you look at the month and say, hey, Mondays and Wednesdays I do this, Tuesday, Thursdays I do this. How do you look at your time and time management?
Yeah, so I get asked a lot, Robert. You do a lot of stuff. How do you have the time for it? Part of that is ADHD, so I'm always working. But I created a framework called the power zones. And for me, I set up my days, generally speaking, in a zone. It's the Zen zone, which is 12 to 6. This is when I sleep. There are certain things that happen in the Zen zone. The optimized zone, which is 6 to 12, is typically affirmations, devotion, gym workout, and then prospecting. 12 to 6 p.m. is the network zone. So that's when I do lunch dates, business appointments, etc. And then 6 to 12 midnight is engage zone, time for the family. So for me, I can look at my scale, my calendar, and if it doesn't fit in the zone, it makes it easier for me as well. So networking lunches or buyer appointments, seller appointments, going to a buyer tour. I schedule certain things based on the actual zone. So what it does for me is it allows me to get much more things done because I've heightened my activity and my focus in a particular area. And so that's kind of how I do it. And I do teach that in my 7 university, the power zones and how you effectively work through that. But that's kind of how I do it as far as how I scale my time.
That's fantastic. I've always heard time blocking. I do 2 hours Wednesday and I make my FISBO calls and whatever it is. But to look at it based on, and we probably, a lot of us follow those rhythms of our life and where we're most effective. And if you need the most energy to cold call or have conversations with clients and things like that to make sure you're on top of it, you might find your zone is before noon.
Yeah.
And I like that you kind of do that. And then the afternoon zone is going to be a more casual. I like doing my networking events. I usually do my networking, and I say networking. I meet with someone new once a week, every single week. And I say new, someone that's important to me in my database that I want to have a relationship with.
Mm,
I meet with someone every single week and I make it real easy. I think anyone out there that wants to stay effective and stay in front of your sphere, that's one easy thing you can do. Just
right.
meet with somebody in your sphere once a week. And I do before I start work, I try to get it between, I can do as early as 5 in the morning up to about 9 o'clock. So that's kind of my range. And then I've got
Got it.
to drop off kids and stuff in between there. But because I get up at 5 to go to the gym and I can give them my gym time if if that's just the way I had to do it. But I
Mm,
try to do that every week, and I have a kind of that range. But I can see doing afternoons for networking and more casual, less, being on top of your game, more, let's just talk and have a more casual. That's pretty good. And I think most people's rhythms probably follow a lot like that either. I
yeah.
mean, also,
Yeah. Because especially like when it comes to like prospects, things like that, or admin things, let me do what I don't. I'm not good at those things, and that takes more energy. So let me do that in the time I have the most energy
yeah.
versus waiting for the end of the day, and everything kind of any fires can come up as well. And so when I have a client that want to go look at houses, I always schedule between 12 and 6. Now I also had to develop that rhythm when I was dual career. I was working a full-time job as a trainer. I was working real estate. And so my clients never knew. My clients never knew I had another job because I controlled my calendar. I would say like, oh, I'm available between 12 and 1 and 4 and 5 on this day and 2 to 6 on this particular day. And they just thought I was busy. They thought, well, Robert he's high demand. He has productivity, production. I was at a full-time job. They didn't know it. But 12 to 1 was lunchtime. 4 to 5 was after. And so I've learned the power of controlling conversations, calls, and my calendar.
Yeah, I think agents are too worried about no's and what other people think. You can manage your calendar and you can determine the days and times that are most effective for you to go and look at homes. I always push back to everyone. I say, hey, the times we're going to go is here, 2 to 3 on Thursday, and I
Right.
make it work for my family and everything else. For
Right.
years, I only worked, I never worked weekends and evenings.
Mm,
And I was able to effectively say, no, showings are 2 to 4 on this afternoon. We're going to go and we're going to look at everything at that
yeah.
point instead of, well, we get off at 6 and, we're going to go out at 7. They'll make it happen. If buyers are
Right.
motivated enough, they'll make it happen and fit their schedule to fit yours.
And it's just like any other profession, right? My dentist is not working at 8 o'clock at night. My doctor, I can't call him on Sunday. Now, does it mean that there's not flexibility in that? Yeah, there are times when my doctor works. Hey, let's emergency call. Let's do this. And so even within my schedule, there are a flexibility. It's not rigid where it's like it has to be this and nothing else, but there is flexibility. And it also helps me schedule and know what's happening.
So let's talk about this combination of AI and the social media.
Okay.
And I've heard this as well. People think that I'm very busy because they see me everywhere, right? That's kind of the syndrome that you have. You connect with your audience, you connect with your sphere, connect with them on all social media, and then you're going to, you can replay old things and you can create content. This call you and I are having this podcast, you're going to be able to clip it up and use it multiple times over the next year, and
Right.
and no one will know. They would have thought you just did it yesterday.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it multiplies your effectiveness and you staying in front of your sphere. So how do you leverage social media and marketing, right?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, I have four pillars to my business, and one of the pillars is social media marketing, being effective and showing up there. There's a lot of automation I instilled in my social media as well. Something that the audience can do right now is go to my Instagram and type in the word in my DM, leveraging AI. There's automation that takes place, and so when I do content, videos, etc., I can do the video, upload the video, and then automation can take place even though I'm doing other things. And so, I try to maintain 30 to 40 minutes a day on social media at the most. So there are times where it kind of gets a little bit over that, but majority of the time I look at my schedule average of the week. I'm not on Instagram and Facebook a lot. So there are things that I do. Like I get in, I do my 5 5. So you go over to the 5 people on your stories, you like or comment, you go 5 down on posts. What that does, it resets the algorithm as well for me and gets me in front of them and them in front of me. And then I have my content that I post. I have some things that are static content that's posted from outside sources, like within the brand, like the brokerage or referral maker network, whatever social suites you have. But then I also have my content. And so that's the videos. And for me, it's about what are the things that my clients are asking me or questions I hear. Now let me produce content for that I can reproduce over and over again. And so a video, I can record a video 2 years ago and a client has the question and I could just send that question video answer back to them. And so that's kind of how I view social media is what can I leverage routinely and over again. And then I'm not concerned about the views. Do I want more views? Absolutely. Do you want to go viral? Absolutely. But if I tell any agent right now, if you sat in a room with 100 people and you were able to give your spiel, would you be satisfied and excited for the opportunity? And most agents would say, absolutely. Well, why not be excited about the 100 views you got on your social media as well? Because that's you sitting in front of the 100 people giving your content. And so my switch moved from trying to get more views and all that to be more engaging and go deeper. And that's why I have a lot of automation. I use a system called mini chat in my DMs. So when people comment, like certain things or say keywords, automation takes place and I can continue to produce things from that perspective. And the other thing is I'm big on control, right? So having the ability to get emails and numbers so that I can then put them into targeted campaigns and nurture sequences is huge for me as well. So having a buyer guide or a seller guide where I can give them something for free, they give me their name and their email address, and then I can now turn back around and nurture them with an email campaign is huge for me as well.
No, it's all valuable tips, and anybody can do these things. They think,
Anybody.
wow, well, Robert, you're so smart. You got a buyer tip, you got seller tip. ChatGPT can put one together. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys can do these things. They're simpler than you think, right? It's just doing.
Multiple title companies have buyer guides and seller guides. You can
Absolutely, they
purchase them
do. Or
yourself.
lenders, they all
Or
have guides
lenders.
and stuff. They want to give it to you. They want to promote it, but
Yeah.
title companies tend to be the best because they're a little bit more neutral,
Yeah.
and they are looking for ways to resource to agents that are cost effective, and that's one of the tools that they do leverage. And you can even brand it to you. I mean, they're most of them
Absolutely.
are pretty open.
Yeah.
I love all that. So you've got your book and you've got some other things, but one specific thing I know you're pretty passionate about, obviously, is the AI. You have something called the AI Advantage Academy
Yes.
for realtors. So tell us about that. I know I want to help you promote some things and help agents out there.
Yeah, so I started teaching AI, like I said, about 2.5, 3 years ago. Taught over 1,000 agents by this time now. It turned into a 2 hour CE course with Texas Realtors. So I teach that all over the place. And then one of the things I kept getting was number one, it was Robert, you're giving more value in this than I took an AI class and I've got more value in this 2 hour CE. Do you also have anything done for you or take us deep in any deeper? And so after hearing multiple people say that, I created the AI Advantage Academy, which is an 8 module course that takes you from the beginnings of AI, what is AI, step by step stuff, and then all the way to the advanced, how to create your own personal assistants like custom GPTs and other tools for efficiency. How do you operate with automation in your social media? So I give you not only the framework about AI, I give you all my frameworks, I give you all the assistants that I use. You get to be able to create your own assistants and you get prompt libraries and all that stuff. And so that is a great tool that I use a lot. My clients love it, agents love it. I also do coaching, so that also is a part of that. And then right now, I'm giving everyone that goes to my AI Academy, you get a year free for my membership of my 7 University, which is master classes, on demand libraries, and all of that stuff. So it's a great resource and tool for people to be able to leverage and use. And so, if you're looking to develop your AI chops, if you will, it is a great opportunity for you to go through and say like, hey, what is AI and how can I leverage this in my business? And so you learn it, but then you also be able to take done for you systems and reproduce it for yourself and your business.
That's fantastic. And I'm going to have the link included in YouTube to take us to the AI Advantage Academy. So look for that below. And if you've got any way else you want to contact, he's on Instagram. You type in his name. I told you in the beginning, it comes up with the link tree and all the type of things he's offering. Robert is definitely out there everywhere. How does he get all this done? That's the
Yeah,
question, right? How's he getting all these things done? So if you want to see a model of AI, he doesn't have a massive team behind him. He's able to accomplish a lot of things just with AI, and I think everybody out there can as well. Thank you so
absolutely.
much, Robert, for doing this with me.
Yes, sir.
Very good podcast. Lots of good tips. I'm going to post all your information there. If anyone wants any information on him, I can connect you with Robert. And I'm going to continue to have new episodes coming out every single week. This week I'd like to have them come out on Friday. So if you're interested, please subscribe if you haven't yet. And I'll continue to bring amazing guests just like Robert. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Shaune.
That wraps up another episode of Real Estate Success DFW. I hope you're leaving with new insights that push your real estate career forward. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with fellow agents who's ready to succeed. And if you're interested in working together or have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me directly. My personal phone is 214-228-0383. Let's connect and make real estate success happen together. Until next time, keep pushing forward. I'm Shaune Corbett, and this is the Real Estate Success DFW. Have a high performance week.